Wind your clock back to early 2002. The War on Terror was only just starting to begin. The new millennium was only a few years old, and a 7-year-old Virginian boy was preparing to watch a 3-part TV miniseries with his family. The name of that miniseries was Rose Red, a Stephen King adaptation that involved psychics, ghosts, and many of Stephen King's favorite cliches. It was a smashing viewership success, nearing an average of 18.5 million viewers over 3 nights, getting a Nielsen rating of 8.5. Just an absolute accomplishment for ABC. Reviews for that miniseries, however, were mixed. Some complained about the movie's lack of originality, while others thought it was overly long and rather boring. What did the gullible 7-year-old think of it? Well, it scared the living shit out of him and left a permanent impression on the boy. After a few rewatches, the boy didn't really set an eye on the miniseries until deciding to review each part of it for his existing YouTube channel in correlation with the upcoming remake of Stephen King's It. So, what do I think of Rose Red's first act now? Well, it's as good as I remember, while also being a lot more awkward and uneven than I realized as a 7-year-old. The acting is a lot better than I was expecting, as the introduction scene for Professor Joyce Reardon left me genuinely impressed. Her entertaining spat with an obnoxious reporter for a college paper felt very authentic and drew me in as a viewer. It made me realize just how good some of the acting in Rose Red could be, and how much extra depth it helped to add to these characters, who may have been a little bit more one note without them. Nancy Travis, the actress who plays Reardon, is joined by actors who work as good foils for her, such as Matt Ross, Matt Kessler, and Emily Deschanel, among others. Unfortunately, the performances, while good, are not exactly great either, and can lead to some very awkward moments or quirks that drag down Rose Red's first act. Whether it be Matt Ross's decision to continuously act with his mouth at least partially open, which can be very, very grating at times, or Travis's very unenthralling exchanges with the head of her department, minus the blood scene, of course. And that's not also to say every performance is good or that every character hits the same amount of quality either. The mother of Emery Waterman, Matt Ross's character, is annoyingly overbearing. The actress playing her does a decent enough job, and the character does give us a good view into Emery's motivations and personality, but it's also an extremely one-note and cliche character and leaves me with much enjoyment when she's gone. And don't even get me started on David Duke's character, who is Reardon's boss. His performance is so run-of-the-mill that you can see the factory it was just rolled out of in the distance. He plays a skeptic looking to sabotage the main characters you've seen in dozens of other movies, and David Dukes adds nothing to it with his performance. With all that said, most of the characters do come across as original or authentic enough, at least in the first act. The Wheaton family may have a rather played-out family dynamic, but the father has just enough to him to make you realize he isn't a complete idiot, and he's just doing what he thinks is best for his family, even if he's doing a bit of a bad job at it. I can't make much of Annie's performance, as there hasn't really been one yet. Sister's performance is rather up and down, and I really hope she improves in the second half. The mother's just kind of there, but is an okay enough character. Again, not the most original family, but serviceable and nuanced enough. The remaining characters haven't had a lot of time to stand out yet, but have left me wanting to know more about them. Whether it be the slightly mysterious Steve, who has a tease history and hatred of Rose Red, or the other 4 psychics, who were rather likable in their bar scene together. Overall, the acting and characters are mixed, but the good outweighs the bad so far. Plus, I'll never get tired of Emery intentionally ignoring Rose Red's warnings because he's broke as hell. Say what you want about the character, but that's a really rather funny and fresh aspect right there. Now, what about the rest of Rose Red's first act? Well, the sets have looked pretty good so far, and the house has been built up extremely well as this absolute horror that one should not come into contact with. So of course the characters are going there. At least most of them have the proper motivation to do so. Of course, most of these motivations boil down to pure desperation, but at least it is a believable motivation. The scares have been rather lacking in the first act, as it's been built up for the most part, and even when there are scares, most of them are kind of funny due to Emery's nonchalantness to them. And what about the ones that don't have Emery in them? Well, they're rather weird, and some of the acting in them could be rather awkward. They aren't very scary either, and don't leave much of an impression. Am I disappointed by that? Not really. I never really found the first act very scary to begin with, and wasn't surprised to find that is still the case. I can only hope that doesn't stay the same for the rest of the film's acts, as I remember them being quite terrifying. And hopefully the other acts are also not as slow as Rose Red's beginning, as it drags for far more than it should, and the scenes are drawn out for far too long, likely in order to meet a 90-minute runtime requirement. I hope that's not a warning sign for the rest of the miniseries. And with that, I'll see all of you in part 2 later.